Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the English Island podcast, the place where your English journey becomes simple, practical, and powerful.
Yes, and today's episode is something very special because we are not just going to teach you English, we're going to change the way you communicate.
Exactly. Today, we are talking about something that looks simple, but is actually very powerful: how to ask questions smartly.
Most people think English is about speaking long sentences or using difficult words, but the truth is, communication is not about speaking more, it is about speaking right.
And one of the biggest skills in communication is asking the right questions.
Let me ask you something, Al. Why do you think people struggle to ask questions?
I think the biggest reason is fear. People are afraid of making mistakes. They think, what if my English is wrong?
That's true. But here's the reality. Broken English is always better than silence.
That's a powerful line.
Because when you stay silent, you don't learn anything. But when you ask, even if it's not perfect, you improve.
So the goal is not perfect English. The goal is confident communication.
Exactly. And asking smart questions helps you in every area of life: school, college, interviews, friendships, and even daily conversations.
Let's make it simple. What is a smart question?
A smart question is clear, connected, and curious.
I like that. Clear, connected, and curious.
Yes, clear means easy to understand. Connected means related to the conversation. And curious means you actually want to know more.
That makes sense. Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine someone says, "I started learning English last month."
Okay.
A normal response would be, "Okay."
And that ends the conversation.
Exactly. But a smart question would be, "Oh, nice. What made you start learning English?"
That keeps the conversation going.
And that's the key. Smart questions keep conversations alive.
So basically, if you want to become a good speaker, you should become a good question asker.
Absolutely. The best communicators are not the ones who talk the most, they're the ones who ask the best questions.
That changes the perspective completely.
Now let's talk about something practical. There are different types of questions.
All right, let's break them down.
The first type is basic questions. These are simple and used in daily life.
Like, what are you doing? Or where are you going?
Exactly. These are important, but they are not enough to build strong conversations.
So what comes next?
The second type is follow-up questions. This is where real communication begins.
Explain that.
Follow-up questions are based on what the other person just said.
So you listen first, then ask.
Yes. For example, if someone says, "I love watching movies," you can ask, "What kind of movies do you enjoy?"
That feels natural.
And it shows interest.
What about the third type?
The third type is deep questions. These questions make conversations meaningful.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Instead of asking, "What do you do?" you can ask, "What do you enjoy most about your work?"
That sounds more thoughtful.
Exactly. Deep questions make you sound more intelligent and more connected.
So if we combine all three, basic, follow-up, and deep, we can have better conversations.
Yes, and here's a simple formula: ask, listen, and follow up.
That sounds easy, but very powerful.
It is, and the best part is you don't need advanced English for this.
That's great for beginners.
Absolutely. You just need the right mindset.
Now, let's take this into real-life situations.
Yes, because learning without practice is useless.
Imagine you meet someone for the first time,
Most people ask, "Where are you from?" and then stop.
and the conversation dies.
But a smart communicator says, "Where are you from?" and then follows up with, "How is that place?"
That opens the conversation.
Exactly. One extra question can change everything.
This is actually very practical.
Yes, and once you start doing this, it becomes a habit.
And that habit will improve your English automatically.
Not just your English, but your confidence as well.
So from today, we want our listeners to focus on one thing.
Don't just answer questions.
Start asking them.
And ask them smartly. Let's go deeper into real-life conversations, because this is where most people either grow or get stuck.
Right. Let's imagine a simple situation. You're talking to a friend.
Okay, I'll start. Hey, I had a really long day today.
Oh, really? What made it so long?
I had a lot of work and I couldn't manage my time properly.
That sounds stressful. What was the most difficult part?
Probably finishing everything on time.
See, this is a perfect example. You didn't give advice immediately. You asked questions.
Exactly. When you ask questions, you understand better before you respond.
And that makes your communication more meaningful.
Now, let's take another situation. You're in a classroom and you don't understand something.
Most students stay quiet.
Yes, but a smart student asks clearly.
Instead of saying, I didn't understand, you can say, can you explain this part again with an example?
That sounds confident and respectful.
And it also helps the teacher understand what exactly you need.
Now let's move to a professional situation, like an interview.
This is where smart questions can really change the game.
At the end of an interview, they usually ask, do you have any questions?
And many people say, no.
Which is a big mistake.
So what should we say instead?
You can ask, what skills are most important for this role? Or what does success look like in this position?
That shows interest and confidence.
And it makes you stand out from others.
Now, let's talk about something very important, listening.
Yes, because without listening, you cannot ask good questions.
Many people focus only on what they want to say next.
But smart communicators focus on what the other person is saying.
Let's take an example.
All right. I love playing football.
Oh, nice. How often do you play?
I play every weekend.
That's great. Do you play with a team or just friends?
See how natural that feels?
Yes, because every question is connected.
That's the secret. Always stay connected to the conversation.
Now, let's talk about a common mistake.
Which one?
Asking too many questions at once.
Oh, yes. That feels like an interrogation.
For example, where are you from? What do you do? Why did you choose this? How long have you been doing this?
That's too much.
So, what's the better way?
Ask one question, listen carefully, then ask the next.
Simple and effective.
Another mistake is not showing interest.
Right. If your tone is flat, your questions won't feel engaging.
So always add a little emotion.
Like, instead of saying, what happened? You can say, oh, really? What happened?
That small change makes a big difference.
Now, let's do a quick practice conversation.
Let's do it.
I started learning English 2 months ago.
That's great. What made you start?
I want to improve my communication skills.
That's a good reason. What is the biggest challenge you're facing?
Speaking confidently.
I understand. What do you think can help you improve that?
Maybe more practice and less fear.
Exactly. And asking questions like this is already practice.
That's true. Every conversation is a chance to improve.
And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes.
At first, you may feel slow or unsure.
But with time, it becomes automatic.
And that's when real confidence starts.
So don't wait for perfect English.
Start with simple questions.
Stay curious
Stay connected.
and keep asking.
Because smart questions create smart conversations.
And smart conversations build confident speakers.
And that's exactly what we want for you.
To speak confidently, naturally, and without fear.
So from today, make a small change.
In every conversation, ask at least one follow-up question.
That one habit can change everything.
And slowly, you will see your English improving.
Not just your English, but your personality as well.
Because communication is not just a skill.
It's a power.
Let's take this even further, because asking questions is not just about speaking, it's also about thinking.
That's interesting. What do you mean by thinking?
I mean, the quality of your questions depends on the quality of your thinking.
So better thinking leads to better questions?
Exactly. If you think deeply, you will naturally ask deeper questions.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine someone says, I want to become successful.
Okay,
A basic question would be, why?
that's simple.
But a smarter question would be, what does success mean to you?
That's much more powerful.
Because now you are not just asking for a reason, you are asking for meaning.
And that creates a deeper conversation.
Exactly. And deeper conversations build stronger connections.
So if someone wants to improve their communication, they should also improve their thinking.
Yes, start observing things around you. Be curious about people, situations, and ideas.
Curiosity is the key.
Always. A curious mind never runs out of questions.
Now, let's talk about confidence.
Yes, because many people know what to ask, but they hesitate.
They think, what if my English is wrong?
But here's the truth. People don't care about small mistakes.
They care about your confidence.
Exactly. Confidence makes your communication strong, even if your English is simple.
So, how can someone build confidence while asking questions?
Start small. Ask simple questions in daily life.
Like talking to friends or classmates.
Yes, then slowly move to new people.
Yes, then slowly move to new people.
And over time, your fear will disappear.
Because confidence comes from action, not from thinking.
That's an important point.
Many people wait to feel confident before speaking, but confidence comes after speaking.
Exactly.
Now, let's imagine a short story.
All right, I like this.
There was a student who wanted to improve his English.
Okay.
He watched videos, learned vocabulary, and studied grammar.
Sounds like most people.
Yes, but still, he couldn't speak confidently.
So what changed?
One day, he decided to ask questions in every conversation.
Interesting.
He didn't focus on perfect sentences, he focused on asking.
What kind of questions?
Simple ones. What do you mean? Can you explain that? Why do you think so?
And what happened?
At first, it felt uncomfortable.
That's normal.
But slowly, he started understanding conversations better.
And his confidence improved.
Yes, because he was no longer silent.
He became active in conversations.
Exactly. And within a few months, his English improved a lot.
That's powerful.
The lesson is simple.
If you want to improve, don't just listen.
Participate.
Ask.
Engage.
Because communication is a two-way process.
Now, let's do another quick practice.
Let's go.
I recently started reading books.
That's great. What kind of books are you reading?
Mostly self-improvement books.
Nice. What is one thing you learned from them?
I learned the importance of discipline.
That's valuable. How are you applying it in your daily life?
See how the conversation keeps growing?
Yes, and it feels natural.
Because every question is connected.
That's the goal.
Now imagine if you didn't ask anything.
The conversation would end in seconds.
Exactly.
So from now on, remember this simple rule.
Never let the conversation die.
Always keep it moving.
And the easiest way to do that?
Is by asking smart questions.
Not complicated.
Not perfect.
Just smart and connected.
And with time, this will become your habit.
And once it becomes your habit,
You will never struggle with conversations again.
because you will always know what to say next,
Or more importantly,
what to ask next.
and that is the real skill.
That's the real confidence.
And that's the real growth.
Now let's move into something more advanced, because once you understand the basics, small improvements can create a big difference.
Yes, and this is where you start sounding natural, not like a learner.
So what is the next level in asking questions?
The next level is adding intention behind your questions.
Intention?
Yes, every question should have a purpose. You should know why you are asking it.
That makes sense.
For example, if you ask, "What do you do?" it's a basic question.
But if you ask, What do you enjoy most about your work? It has intention.
Exactly. Now you are not just collecting information, you are understanding the person.
That's a big difference.
Another powerful technique is using open-ended questions.
What does that mean?
Open-ended questions are questions that cannot be answered with just yes or no.
So they make the other person speak more.
Exactly. For example, instead of asking, "Do you like your job?" you can ask, "What do you like about your job?"
That sounds more engaging.
And it gives you more information to continue the conversation.
Now let's talk about something very practical.
Go ahead.
What should someone do if they don't understand the answer?
Very important question. Never pretend that you understood.
Yes, many people just nod and stay confused.
Instead, you can ask simple questions like, "Can you repeat that?" Or, "Can you explain it in a simple way?"
That shows honesty.
And it helps you learn faster.
Now, let's add one more layer. Tone and body language.
Yes, because communication is not just words.
Even a simple question can sound different depending on your tone.
For example, "What happened?" can sound caring or rude.
So always keep your tone calm and friendly.
And maintain eye contact.
That builds trust.
Now let's imagine a slightly deeper conversation.
All right?
I feel stuck in my life.
I'm sorry to hear that. What makes you feel stuck?
I don't feel like I'm making progress.
That sounds difficult. What kind of progress are you expecting?
See how the questions are not random?
Yes, they are thoughtful.
And that's what makes a conversation powerful.
Now, let's talk about one last mistake people make.
Which one?
They focus too much on grammar.
That's true.
They think, is my sentence correct?
But communication is not an exam.
It's a connection.
Exactly. If your message is clear, small mistakes don't matter.
So focus on clarity, not perfection.
Now, let's bring everything together with a final conversation.
Let's do it.
I want to improve my English.
That's great. What is your main goal?
I want to speak confidently.
That's a strong goal. What is stopping you right now?
Fear and lack of practice.
I understand. What is one small step you can take today?
Maybe I can start speaking with my friends.
That's perfect. And what kind of questions can you ask them?
Simple ones like, "How was your day?" Or, "What did you learn today?"
Exactly. And then follow up.
Yes. Like, what was the best part or why did you like it?
Now you are thinking like a smart communicator.
And this is how growth happens.
Step by step,
Conversation by conversation.
question by question.
So let's end this with something important.
Go ahead.
You don't need perfect English to start,
You just need the courage to ask.
because every question you ask,
Is one step towards confidence.
one step towards fluency.
And one step towards becoming a better version of yourself.
So from today,
Don't stay silent.
don't overthink,
Just ask.
stay curious,
Stay confident.
and keep growing.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Until then, keep practicing.
Right here on the English Island Podcast. Bye-bye, everyone. Keep learning, keep growing, keep exploring.